Okay. Well, maybe in the interest of time, I'll get going, huh?
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Maggie, I'm wondering if can you see people coming into the waiting room so that
Yep.
you can manage that while I speak.
I will. Yep.
Thank you. Now, where can I get rid of that? So thank you very much, everyone, for joining tonight. This is a OneNJ7 Action Fund discussion on the theme of communities, not cages, resisting detention expansion. And we're very lucky tonight, very fortunate to have two special guests who know the situation intimately that we're dealing with in Roxbury. David Broderick of the New Jersey Appleseed Public Interest Law Center, and Jenny Garcia of the American Friends Service Committee. And we'll say more about them when we come to their part of the proceedings. But so here, this is David and Jenny. First of all, a word from our sponsors. We are the OneNJ7 Action Fund Incorporated. We are an independent expenditure super PAC. And we have one goal and one goal only, and that is to get rid of this guy, Tom Kaine Jr., our Republican congressman, who has been a singularly inept and uncommunicative representative for the last 4 years. He was benefited by redistricting in 2021, but the tide is clearly running against him currently. We have. We saw in the gubernatorial election that Mikey Sherrill won the 7th congressional district by 2 percentage points. So we're very confident that if we can get the same kind of turnout that we got for Mikey Sherrill, then we can send Tom Kaine into retirement. And this is a headline that came from Politico a few months ago. Trump is causing a midterm headache for this New Jersey Congress member. There are a whole bunch of issues that he is dealing with, and I'm not going to go through them all here because we want to focus on one of them tonight, which is the situation in Roxbury. As you all know, ICE has purchased a warehouse in Roxbury with the aim of turning it into a detention center. But let's use the correct terminology here. It's a concentration camp. And Keynes' response to this for the township of Roxbury was to try to get them tax relief. That was the extent of his interest in this issue. And even the council members on Roxbury Council were disgusted by his pusillanimous behavior in the face of this issue. If you haven't seen it, this is the warehouse that is being purchased and is planned to be turned into a detention center. The way to deal with this problem in 2026 is to get rid of Tom Kaine, get control of the House of Representatives, and start dealing with the issue of ICE. The issue we have in the 7th congressional district is that this race may be decided by as few as 5,000 voters, and it'll be an issue of turnout and persuasion amongst low propensity, infrequent Democrats and soft left-leaning unaffiliated voters. And the question for us is how we're going to reach them. That is what our super PAC is designed to solve. And here is a map of Tom Kaine hiding away in the district. And you can see in the blue the number of infrequent Democrats that we are that we are targeting in the 2026 election. Infrequent defined as people who voted in 2025. They voted in the gubernatorial election, but they voted 0 or 1 times in 2022 and 2024. And in the magenta, you can see the infrequent unaffiliated voters that we're also targeting, and they have a very high propensity score, indicating that they are almost certain to vote Democrat if we can get them to the polls. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. So there's a total of about 30,000 voters that we are targeting. And we think if we can increase their turnout, then that'll be an important part of that 5,000 vote margin that we think will determine the result in this district. So how are we doing this? First of all, we're doing it with postcards, direct contact with these voters, handwritten postcards by our volunteers. Our first campaign has finished. We actually got out around 40,000 postcards in our first campaign. And in our second campaign, we just started this week, we're highlighting that you can choose between money invested in healthcare or billions for Trump's war, and that Tom Kaine Jr. chose war. And we're complementing that with digital advertising. These ads are almost ready to go out. They will be precision targeted at these infrequent voters, so that when they visit certain websites, these will come up as banners or the different formats that you see on this screen here. And we are also right now planning a billboard campaign. This is a dummy at this stage, but next week, if all goes well, we will have 2 billboards up, one in Bridgewater and one in Springfield. The idea here will be giving a high visibility presence along key New Jersey 7 corridors to reinforce what we're doing through digital and mail messaging. That all costs money. We're targeting a total of $253,000 to fund this campaign. And Maggie, would you like to jump in and say something more about that?
Sure. So the PAC is newly created. We finished paperwork in January. We accepted our first donation on February 3rd. As Murph said, we have a goal of $253,000, and we have already raised.
I haven't got let me get it up here.
Oh, drum roll, please.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there it is. Can you see it there?
No.
No? Oh, well, sorry, that should have come up. That's a thermometer which shows that we've reached $85,800 of the 253,000 that we are targeting.
Right. So that means we're just over a third of the way to our goal. And in this effort, early investment is our friend, because then that allows us to know whether we can do additional postcarding, digital ads, and billboards. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been on the call so far. We've raised a total of $1,463. So thank you. And thank you for coming out and learning about this.
Great. Well, I will stop sharing and introduce our first guest. And if I can say something about David, David Broderick has served on the board of New Jersey Appleseed since its inception, and he was its chairman from 2006 to 2023. He's retired partner at one of New Jersey's leading law firms. He specialized in corporate and securities law with deep expertise in venture capital and private equity transactions. He also co-led McCarter's small business investment company practice, helping secure one of the first small business its first SBA participating securities licenses in 1993. Beyond his legal career, David's led and supported several nonprofits, and he teaches business planning as an adjunct professor at Seton Hall Law School. He's a Rutgers graduate, a Harvard Law School alum, and he's been widely recognized, including honors from Chambers USA, Best Lawyers in America, and New Jersey Super Lawyers. And he's very well qualified to talk to us about the legal ramifications of what's going on in Roxbury. David, over to you.
Sure. And good evening. And again, it's it's very heartening to see the turnout for an event like this because this is so important, and it's just wonderful to see that the community is really motivated to really make a difference here. So I was told I should talk a bit about the history of the Roxbury warehouse proposed ICE facility, and so I went back over my timeline this morning in preparation, and I couldn't believe it. It's only been 4 months. It feels like a couple of years for those of us who have been fighting this since it came about. But basically, this popped up on the radar screen only on Christmas Eve of last year, when an intrepid reporter at the Washington Post published a story which said that ICE was looking to purchase warehouses throughout the nation to serve as detention centers. And there was a list, and lo and behold, little Roxbury, New Jersey was on it. It took everyone by surprise, and I think a lot of people kind of felt, well, how could that be? That's, this little town here in New Jersey, how could that be? To their, maybe to their only credit, the town officials did try to get some information. They did contact DHS. I believe they contacted Congressman Kane, who, as usual, did nothing. But they did try to get information. And now, at that point, no one even knew what warehouse was being spoken about. And on January 13th, documents were leaked from DHS, which actually contained a list of the addresses of the warehouses that ICE was targeting and the contemplated number of detainees that they proposed holding in them. And Roxbury was there, and the contemplated number at that time was 1,500 people. And literally the next day, it was listed on the sheet that representatives of ICE and DHS were coming to visit the facility to talk to the broker and the owner. The owners were Goldman Sachs and a warehouse company called Dolphin Industrial. And the town, a number of us in the opposition did mobilize and had a small, greeting party of protesters to greet ICE. But the town was there. My understanding is the police and fire chiefs were there, the mayor, the town administrator. And they tried to tell ICE that, this town is just not a suitable place. We have a volunteer fire department. I think we have like 6 ambulances. It's just not a suitable place to try to have this type of huge facility. Nothing was spoken. No information was given. The town council did pass a non-binding resolution unanimously, and they happened to be 7 Republicans, indicating its opposition to having a detention facility in town. No doubt, most of them are motivated by not in my backyard considerations, but if that works, so be it. While this was going on, now the community, knew what the warehouse was and how to target it. And so a pressure campaign began against Dolphin Industrial and against Goldman Sachs and against the broker, Jones Lang LaSalle, to try to stop the sale. And also the town continued to try to get some information from DHS. We sort of in the activist community went to every single town hall. We drafted proposed ordinances, which maybe if they wouldn't have stopped the deal, they would have at least, we think, slowed it down and made it more difficult. Senator Anthony Bucco, as some of you may know, who's the Republican minority leader in the state Senate, is also Roxbury's town council. And every time we tried to raise something which could be of some positive use here, his answer was, no, it's the federal government. They can do anything they want. And it was a very defeatist attitude, which got very many people very upset with him. So for all intents and purposes, there was really no communication from DHS. However, on February 20th, they did receive a call from DHS, the town did, saying, okay, DHS now has bought the warehouse. The town put out a press release indicating that it learned this and that it would still continue to try to fight it. But one of the things that's most notable for these purposes is that the all-Republican council stated right there in black and white, despite repeated outreach, our federal representative, Congressman Tom Kean Jr., did not engage to the level we had hoped to provide the advocacy our residents deserved. Now, you've got a 7-member Republican town council criticizing their Republican representative. I think that I think that's extremely notable. The other notable thing is that this was a warehouse which has sat vacant for 3 years, was on the market. Apparently, nobody was really interested in it for various reasons. It was assessed at a value of $62 million. Our federal government bought it for $129 million, over twice the assessed value. So basically, after we learned of the purchase, we and others continued to contact political leaders. I have to say, Senator Kim has been a real leader in this. He actually came to Roxbury, viewed the facility, met with us, met with town leadership, and said that he would do what he could. We also got some good feedback from Governor Sherrill's office. She has a office of advocacy, and we were able to engage them on the project and educate them. And then finally, the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and we kind of brainstormed with lawyers from there about what possible legal challenges could be made. That work paid off. On March 20th. The Attorney General and the township jointly filed a lawsuit against DHS. There's basically a couple of grounds, but for this purposes, I'd say the most important one is under federal law called the National Environmental Policy Act. Every agency is supposed to do a very searching and complete assessment of the environmental conditions before it buys a big facility with the intention to convert it into a facility. Nothing even remotely required, like what the law requires, occurred here. DHS just basically jumped in, completely overpaid, and didn't do any of that work. Other states, realizing that they had the same issues in their states, also filed suit and basically indicated that the federal government, is in violation of law, and at a minimum should be required to do this environmental review. Now, the environmental review is just a procedure, but in our case, in the case of Roxbury, the massive amounts of additional water required, the massive amounts of additional sewer generated, the infrastructure just will not handle that. And it's located in the New Jersey Highlands region, which is the source of 70% of the state's drinking water. So it's a very environmentally fragile area. And you're looking to plop, this large facility with inadequate sewage, inadequate water. It's just a real disaster. So, had the federal government bothered to do the study as required by law, presumably they would have found that out, and hopefully they would have walked away and gone somewhere else. Now, normally, following a lawsuit like this, the federal government would be allowed to continue to work on the property and start to retrofit the warehouse. But in order to avoid that, on April 7th, the Attorney General and the Township of Roxbury filed what's called a motion for a preliminary injunction, where they are asking the court to stop all work on the warehouse while this action plays itself out. Now, the same thing happened in really an almost identical litigation in Maryland, and there the federal judge came down very strongly against DHS, said basically they totally ignored the law, and said that that he was going to issue an order, and he did, preventing DHS from doing any work on the conversion of the warehouse down there. So we thought, that was a good result. A group of environmental groups, spearheaded by the New Jersey Highlands Coalition, and a group of Roxbury area residents got together and filed what's called an amicus brief, which is a brief designed to inform the court about additional facts they should know. I worked on the brief together with a number of other volunteer lawyers, and we basically focused our arguments on the fact that this is such an environmentally fragile area, and it's very important. Now, on April 22nd, we finally heard something from the government, and it's a very strange response. First off, now they're claiming that even though their own documents said that this would be a detention center for 1,500 people, now they're claiming that the maximum number is going to be 542. Where they came up with that number, we have no idea. But now they're saying it's less, and they're also saying, and again, it's written so badly, it's hard to understand exactly what they're saying, but they also seem to be saying that, okay, they understand they're supposed to do an environmental study, but you know what, we'll do it later. And right now we want to start working on the warehouse. So it looks like DOJ, Department of Justice, which is representing DHS, realizes that DHS under Kristi Noem violated the law, and they're trying to kind of save face by saying, okay, we recognize we have to do this, and we will do it. So the next major action is going to be a court hearing on May 12th at the Newark Federal District Court. And No Ice in North Jersey is putting together a rally outside the courthouse. We're going to have some speakers, hopefully some political leaders, to speak. And again, we want to keep this in front of the public eye. I see that in the chat the coordinates of the rally are there. So again, to the extent you can come, and particularly if you can carpool, because it's parking in Newark's always at a premium. We would like to have people come. So again, given the theme of the evening, just to summarize what Kane has done or what he's not done, all that he's done is, as far as the public record shows, he did introduce a bill which supposedly would reimburse Roxbury for its lost tax revenue of $1.8 million and its other costs. But nobody thinks that has any chance of in hell of ever getting enacted. And plus, the town doesn't want the facility. It's not good that they're losing tax revenue and that they're going to have additional costs. But that's not the major concern. There's lots of other concerns. And then he wrote a letter, supposedly while he was out sick, on April 7th to the new DHS secretary, in which he asked the secretary to take a, quote, deeper look at the siting of the facility in Roxbury. He didn't say, we don't want it, please, change your mind, put it someplace else. He asked them to take a deeper look. So, again, I view this as a profile in cowardice. He's been of absolutely no help in this effort, and he needs to go out. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or any other things that anyone would be interested in.
Yeah, so you can either raise your hand or pop questions in the chat. Thanks, David, for that overview of what's going on up there.
Yeah, so I see in the chat, we say, how does DHS plan to deal with sewage limitations? Excellent question. We have no idea. They have been very obtuse and obscure. For those of you who watch Rachel Maddow, she actually makes fun of the one warehouse where they actually did respond to local and say, here's how we're going to deal with, in that case, it was water limitations. we're going to pump the water at night. And the town said, no, you don't understand. We don't have enough water during the day, at night, whatever. Anyway, the judge that'll hear the case is, it's on the tip of my tongue. He's a fairly new judge. He used to be a federal prosecutor.
Semper, I think, David Semper.
Yes,
no?
Semper, Judge Semper. Yes, yeah. We again, we have every reason to believe he'll be fair. He's a Biden appointee for what it's worth.
Great. Thanks, David. Any other questions?
I saw a piece by Will Bunch last week, basically suggesting that there's a large amount of grift going on in the way that that contracts for these facilities were handed out, and that Lewandowski had his hand in the till. Is there anything that you've seen behind that, David, or any sequelae to those accusations?
Well, again, thankfully, members of Congress are looking into that. And, we would like to see, I mean, something stinks when a warehouse, which has been on the market for 3 years that nobody wants for various reasons, and is valued at 62 million, which is a pretty accurate value because it was the value the town put on it to get tax revenues, gets sold for 129 million. Somebody made a mint there. Now Goldman Sachs is one of the parties that sold it. Everyone knows the connection between the Trump administration and Goldman Sachs. But there may well have been others out there also who got a piece of the action. But we hope that will show up at some point. One of the questions, would this camp be privately run? No, actually, DHS is changing its formula, and they are now saying that they want to run these, they want to buy and run these themselves. So again, it's a new model, so we don't know exactly how it is, but they're saying that the model they use, for instance, at Delaney Hall, where they rent the facility, I believe, and Geo Group runs it on their behalf. They're saying that there's too much bureaucracy and delay involved in that, and they want to do this directly.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, David.
Yep.
Maggie, do you want to?
Yes, so so Valerie just came in with a question. Given May Day protest in Jersey City, is calling out Goldman Sachs well known, or how can we make it well known for the protest?
Yeah, that is one of the pressure points on the May Day protest, which will take place, I believe, it's 3:00 in Jersey City. They will be marching from, I believe, Jersey City Hall to Town Hall to the Goldman Sachs building, and one of the focuses will be, and presumably the speakers will highlight the fact that Goldman Sachs was a majority owner of this Roxbury warehouse.
All right, good to know that it's included in the May Day protests.
Right.
So again, thank you, David, for all that information. I know that I found it interesting how this is developing, and also that the federal government is now going to be the operator of these facilities. I did want to briefly update everybody that we have raised now $2,003. So we're just over $2,000 mark, and we appreciate it. I want to let you know that, like every fundraising appeal you hear, we appreciate the $10 donation, the $25 donation, whatever you can give to help us get Tom Kean out of office is much appreciated. So next up is Jenny Garcia. She's going to, she is from the detention. She is the detention campaign coordinator for the American Friends Service Committee, and supports people in ICE prisons and their families. AFSC is part of the Detention Deportation Defense Initiative, a state-funded program that provides free legal services to immigrants in ICE custody. She grew up in Lake Apacon and proudly comes from a Honduran Central American family. She also volunteers with Movimiento Cosecha, an undocumented-led movement fighting for dignity, respect, and permanent protection. Welcome, Jenny.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maggie. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes,
Yep.
we can. Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm calling from my office, aka my car, because I was running around and I was like, should I park and take this? Should I try to take this while I'm driving? I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. And also want to shout out my colleague David, who has been at the forefront of so much of the legal battles against the Roxbury warehouse and much of what the city council has used, the attorney general, David, Renee, NJ Appleseed have really laid down a lot of the research and groundwork in order for some of these lawsuits to be brought about. So I was invited to this call to talk a little bit more about what it would mean if this warehouse were to open, right? Me and my comrades have been working to support families in immigration detention, me specifically for about 5 years now. And when we talk about warehousing people and treating people like merchandise, like commerce, and putting a price tag on them, it's not something new in New Jersey. The first ever immigration detention center, ICE prison concentration camp that has existed in New Jersey is actually the Elizabeth Detention Center that opened up in 1994 under Mayor Christian Bullwidge. He is still currently the mayor of Elizabeth. And that was also a converted warehouse. It is in a very industrial zone. When you are out there, it's hidden in a corner like many of these detention centers are. They push them off into the corner to make it, though, seem like it's out of sight and out of mind. You hear planes going overhead in front of the Newark airport. And if you can imagine, if you are someone who is facing deportation, how psychological it could be to constantly hear planes overhead. So to give folks a little bit of background, what happens when these mass goons go into our community and are snatching people off the street, right? So what's currently happening now is that it's severe racial profiling. It's always been racial profiling, but they are also getting people based off their car registrations. So ICE is able to see that people are in a process. They don't know what kind of process, but they know this person wasn't born here because there is data sharing that's currently happening between the Motor Vehicle Commission and ICE agents, right? So when ICE agents are coming into our communities, they take people and they are either processed in two places. At the USCIS Mount Laurel Hold Room in Mount Laurel, or a facility in Freeland-Heisen Avenue in Newark. So they arrest people, they take them to these facilities, and that's where they determine whether they're going to take them to the Elizabeth.
Oh. Looks like we lost Jenny.
Jenny, you just froze. Are you still with us?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now.
Back.
Yeah, you froze
Okay.
for a minute there. Yeah.
I'm back. Okay. Also because it's rainy and stormy weather, so I appreciate everybody's patience. I don't know where I left off. Was I going from the two different detention centers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then you have the Elizabeth Detention Center, capacity around 200 to 250. And then you have Delaney Hall that opened up in May 2020 last year. I think I'm going in and out. Am I going in and out again?
Yeah, but you're in right now.
Okay. I'm hoping the storm can bear with me for a little bit. But I did want to mention something about Delaney Hall, in which the plans to open Delaney Hall began under the Biden administration, right before he left, in which Core Civic, who operates the Elizabeth Detention Center, wanted to renew its contract to keep the Elizabeth Detention Center open. But in the state of New Jersey in 2021, we passed a law that said we didn't want any more private facilities. Core Civic, that operator, decided to sue us. The Biden administration supported the private prison. And then because of the relief that Core Civic got to continue operating the Elizabeth Detention Center, Geo Group was able to open Delaney Hall in May 2025, which has a capacity of 1,054 people. It's their max capacity that they tend to exceed. To share a little bit about what people experience, it goes from when people are first detained, they are forced to sleep on the floor for the first couple of days before they're being put into a unit. We've heard about the food conditions, which are moldy, they're burnt, they're expired. The neglect is so intense that happens inside these places that when you put in a request for medical support, you get seen in 15 days when your body has already gone past what it needs to, right? There's a lot of, like abuse and maltreatment from guards, from ICE officials. You are constantly pressured to sign your deportation. And the conditions are so dire inside these cages is because they are pushing people to sign their deportation. They're not going to make these lovely places to stay, because the end goal of, this administration of Republicans, of people on the far right, is to make these places so insufferable that people want to leave. They want to end their suffering by signing their deportation. The dehumanization doesn't stop just at the people who are detained, but it also happens to the people who are visiting. You have women who are going to see the breadwinner of their family, the love of their lives, being told that their shirt is too tight and they have to go, they run out, and there's people outside of Delaney Hall that are offering compliance clothes. Constantly waiting hours on end in order to visit them. Really rude and awful staff that show no humanity to the people visiting. So I say all these things to say, when we think about the Roxbury warehouse, keep in mind that these things are currently happening in the state of New Jersey, right? And we want elected officials who will do oversight. We'll go inside Delaney Hall. We'll talk to the detainees personally and ask them their experiences. I am not from the district. From what I've heard about Tom King probably doesn't strike me as the person who would go visit detainees inside the ICE detention centers, but somebody who could show a level of compassion for our neighbor, for hardworking people, for people who are on their way to work, for people who were going to their ICE check-ins and following what was doing it the right way, and then ICE is switching up and taking people who were attending their check-ins. I will end by, I work for American Friends Service Committee, which is one of 4 legal providers in the state of New Jersey, which is part of the Deportation Detention Defense Initiative. Between us, Rutgers, Seton Hall, and Legal Services of North Jersey, we provide free pro bono legal services to immigrants who currently find themselves in ICE custody, which is a very complicated system, a system that works on a really quick timeline. And our current budget for the past 5 years before the opening of Delaney Hall was $8.2 million. And that number has remained stagnant for 5 years. An action item that people can take is that we're asking the governor for $20 million in order for us to be able to represent more. Right now, only 10% of immigrants in ICE custody have the representation they need. And we are asking for $20 million, which is also the same amount that the state of New Jersey is using on World Cup promotion. So if the state of New Jersey can use $20 million to promote the World Cup, I think they could use $20 million to, support the over 8,000 people since January 2025 in the state of New Jersey that have been kidnapped by ICE. Since January in the state of New Jersey, I think it's over 2,300 people who have been arrested by ICE. These are huge numbers, thousands of people that are no longer with their families, that are no longer with their communities, that are no longer working in our local businesses. And the void is definitely felt. Although the immigration space is very grim right now for a lot of people, people are also showing up for each other in really amazing ways, donating to GoFundMe's to offset the cost of, a mom's rent who can no longer pay rent because ICE took their breadwinner and the father of their children, right? Or just by being outside of Delaney Hall and offering a box of coffee to the visitors, or offering a warm smile to the kids who have just come out to see their family members. So the Roxbury fight is a bit personal to me, just because my family is local to the area, and we know that when a detention center opens, they are more likely to arrest the people in the surrounding area. Arrests are so high in Newark, Elizabeth, the Oranges, because they are close to the Elizabeth Detention Center and Delaney Hall. So when you think about the Roxbury warehouse opening, it is a threat to our direct neighbors because we know ICE will use their most cost effective and they will try to get people who are close to the ICE prison, right? So I'm really grateful for any sort of effort that moves us closer to a place where this will never open. And despite, things in the immigration landscape being very grim, there's a lot of amazing people like David, like William, really giving people so many options on how to get involved. Donating to this campaign to get Tom Keene out, going to the city council meetings, asking for more legal representation. So just wanted to express gratitude. And if there's any questions about how people are treated or how we support families, I'm happy to answer them. And thanks for bearing with the technical difficulties. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Jenny. And again, if people have questions for Jenny, you can put them in the chat or raise a virtual hand, and we'll look out for it on the screen. Any questions? Do we have any sense of how many people have actually been deported at this time from New Jersey, as opposed to arrested? Yeah.
Yeah, we do have numbers on the amount of people transferred. So people aren't usually deported directly from New Jersey. They're first taken to Louisiana, Mississippi, also in places where the district courts, it's much harder to fight an immigration case. And that is a strategic thing that happens from the federal government. I believe in the state of New Jersey, it's over 3,000, between the 3,000 range. Just in the last year, just in the increase in the last year. And these are people with legal status, people who had temporary protective status, which is under threat. People who had DACA, which is deferred action for childhood arrivals. So people who came as children when they were much younger. People in green card interviews who are marrying a U.S. citizen spouse. Yeah. How can we best help the detainees? If there's any other lawyers here, like habeas corpus, every single immigration law firm has become a habeas corpus factory, trying to turn out a lot of habeas corpuses, which is in Latin means produce the body. And it means that you are suing the federal government to say that your detention was unlawful to begin with. And it's one of the only legal mechanisms in which people are able to be released from detention. And unfortunately, there's just a lack of capacity. So any retired lawyers, any lawyers who even are non-practicing immigration lawyers who want to support, I'm going to put my colleague's email in the chat if you want to share with anybody who would be wanted to be a part of this sort of habeas pro bono project in order to get people free. Supporting the DDDI initiative to get people lawyers. And then, and I think maybe like as a community, like in this district, it could be talked about, if there is a family whose loved one is detained by ICE, how do we do grocery deliveries for their family? I'm happy to always teach anybody how to download the commissary and phone applications that the detainees in Delaney Hall and Elizabeth Detention Center use, that they use to stay connected with their families. I'll also drop my email in the chat. Should we be directing action against the Mount Laurel processing facility? I definitely think for the Mount Laurel processing facility, it's one of those areas similar to the ICE office that they're opening up in Roseland that just requires a lot more investigation of what goes on. The Mount Laurel processing facility is attached to the USCIS office, which is where people take their green card interviews or their like my mom took her citizenship test there, right? And I didn't know that there was also this processing center in which, folks who are deemed to be in violation of their immigration case are taken to this processing center. So I'm not sure of any current campaigns that are happening against the Mount Laurel facility, but I think it does require more research to kind of understand what's going on down there. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions for Jenny? Oh, here's I just saw a comment come in. from David Broderick. Okay, David, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just one of the things that was buried in the brief that the Department of Justice filed a few days ago is that they're saying they need the facility because there are 350,000 people in New Jersey subject to orders of deportation. And then they gave figures for of that number, how many have criminal records and how many are facing criminal charges. And only it's basically 3.5% each. So even if you take all the people with criminal records and all the people with criminal charges, that's only 7% of that population. So they basically are saying we want to deport 350,000 people, 93% of which have no criminal records and are facing no criminal charges.
Wow. Thank you. Any other questions for Jenny or David? If not, if I can just say a few words, it doesn't it beg a belief that we've come to this? Stephen Miller's whole strategy, which he said several times, is to flood the zone with shit, I guess, and with the goal of desensitizing us to what's happening in our country. It just beggars belief that the people are being snatched from the streets with no access to due process. They're being parceled up and put in what, let's face it, they're concentration camps. And we're seeing movements to deport people to absurd distant parts of the world where people have no connections, no families, separating families. It's just it's just beyond belief. And then today we see the Voting Rights Act being shredded, as David said at the outset. And we have to stop this. And the road to restoring democracy in our country, I truly believe, runs through the 7th Congressional District. We have to get the House of Representatives back in Democratic hands. We have to get the Senate back in Democratic hands, and there are very few House districts which are in the too close to call range, and the 7th is one of them now. So we can make a real difference. We can do all we can right at the present moment to support what David is doing, what Jenny is doing. But we also have a responsibility in November to make sure that we turn this government around and that we get a representation in the House which can stand up to the abuses of this government. So I know everyone has calls on their wallet, they have calls on their time. Maggie and I and the rest of the folks in OneNJ7 Action Fund, we are just dedicated to this idea that we can get Tom Kane out of office through focusing on the voters who are going to make a difference in the polls in November. So please, if you can donate, as Maggie said, no donation is too small, and actually no donation is too large. There are no limits on what you can donate. And for those of you who have donated, very sincere thank you. In fact, Maggie, do you have a final total right now? Did we get past that $3 tag? You're muted. You're muted, Maggie.
Sometimes I think my voice projects so loud it'll just do it through mute. But
Okay.
yes, thanks to everyone who donated tonight. We've raised $2,103.
Right. Thank you very much. And a very special thank you to our two speakers tonight, to David and to Jenny, for making real for us, making personal for us what is happening in our district, near our hometown, to our citizens. And we wish both of you every success in repelling the activities of the government in this area of detention and deportation. And let's hope that the Roxbury facility never sees the light of day as a detention center. So with that, I think we're couple of minutes early, but that's okay. I'm sure everyone has things they'd like to do. So we thank you all very much for your participation tonight. And we thank David and Jenny again. And we'll talk again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good
Thank you
night.
all. Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.